Hello, welcome to another episode of the Embody Method podcast. This week I'm just going to get down to it because girl's busy. I'm going to talk about summer and why we want to look best in the summer, but we don't want to prioritize feeling and looking our best all year round. And this is like so common, on social media. 6 week shred for summer body, summer ready, summer confident, blah blah blah. And we focus so much on just that one time of year, and you might sign up to something, not get the results you want, and then you don't feel 100% come your holiday or in your holiday clothes. And I think we need to prioritize feeling good all the time, and that's not feeling good every single day of the week, every single hour of the day, but it's having that kind of general awareness of our own health and well-being all the time, and not just waiting for summer to make it a priority, and not just wait until maybe like a burnout to then start to focus on the things that you actually need. And I covered this in my email topic this week, and I likened it to the players in the World Cup. So obviously the World Cup is on. Scotland won their first match. Woohoo! I got up and watched it because otherwise I'd have FOMO. And then spent, they scored, which was great. And then I spent the rest of the time on edge because they just were making it really difficult for themselves. But I wanted to talk about World Cup players. They're the best the country's got to offer, but also things like the Olympics. So I love watching the Olympics when it's on, Winter Olympics, etc. Because these are the people who are the best in their field, representing their country and trying to showcase what it is they've been doing. But they haven't just started training for it like 2 months ago. The World Cup squad and the players haven't just decided, I better start training for the World Cup, it's coming up in a couple of months. This is years in the making. Same for all these people who are doing these amazing sports, runners, hurdles, javelin, whatever it might be, snowboarders, skiers, they're really great at the Winter Olympics. This is something that's been going on in their life, and it takes over their life because it is the thing they're most passionate about. But they don't just rock up and expect to be the best without putting in the effort. And this is how I think we should see our health and fitness. And again, it's not going to be all consuming, because I don't think that's not healthy. But it's just having that level of awareness to keep ourselves ticking over. So instead of waiting for the summer to get yourself in shape and finally get into the gym, why not build that habit that you can sustain throughout the year? That maybe twice a week you go to the gym, and that's your normal, that's your basic. You prioritize protein most of the time anyway, so when you go on holiday it's not a big deal, because your 80% of your lifestyle is prioritizing protein, nourishing food, healthy food that's going to make you feel good and show up at your best. Things like your average step goal is pretty high because you've got quite a lot of activity, you prioritize movement, and that doesn't mean you have to track your steps for the rest of your life. But once you start to do that, it becomes kind of a second nature. Maybe you don't take the car as often, or you just walk to the shop, drop off a parcel instead of driving there, and suddenly you've got this baseline level all the time. And it's difficult, yes, when it's winter time and it gets dark, motivation levels drop, but that's when it's really important that it sticks. And if you can get those baseline levels to operate throughout the winter, by the time summer comes around, you're pretty much there. Like, you don't need to suddenly join a shred or give up carbs before you go on your holiday, or do something really restrictive and really massive to try and see the difference you want, like drop your calories right down. You're already ticking over. So you know what, maybe you're going on holiday, so then you decide, right, okay, well, I'm not going to drink as much for the next wee while because I want to prioritize looking my best. But it's not a major thing. It's not like clear the cupboards, I'm starting a whole new diet, I'm on a juice cleanse, I'm on a detox, I'm only eating red meat, I'm not eating any bread. It doesn't have to be something as major as that, because you're already at a decent level, because you're prioritizing how you feel all the time, which is most important. Because if you feel better all the time, or most of the time, you have more self-worth, you have more self-confidence, You have more. What do you have more of? You have more trust in your ability to do what you want to do. And it doesn't need a big scary shred or a big scary transformation challenge to get to where you want to be. It might just be amplifying things up. Okay, like I've been a little bit lax on the steps over the past couple of weeks. I'm going to start to push them up. I'm going to add in an extra gym session each week. I'm going to eat an extra portion of fruit and veg each day. You know, things like that. It's nothing major. And that is something that we can all achieve if we prioritize ourselves more and understand what we're getting out of it. It's not always about how we look. It's not always about trying to look a certain way, weigh a certain amount on the scales. It's just a general, how do you feel day in, day out? When you're fitter and healthier, it means you can do more things in life in an easier capacity, like walking up the stairs, taking your shopping in from the car, taking washing in from outside, walking upstairs with stuff, playing with your kids, running around with children if that's what you've got, or maybe a dog, walking the dog, holding on to your dog with anything like mine. I need to be quite strong because she is a wee cow sometimes. But it's just about then how everything else works. Like, how do you show up for your job? What kind of energy do you have in your house? How are you showing up for your family, your friends? All those sorts of things are impacted on everything we do day in, day out. So if we only spend that time prioritizing it up to the summer, then we're not really living a true reflection of how we want to be. How do you want to be? Do you want to be like you are most of the time, or just that portion before the summer? And if it's neither of those, then it's a chance for you to kind of reflect on the lifestyle you have and the priorities you have and rearrange them, or decide what is valuable to you, what is your why, what do you want to get out of life, what do you want to feel each day, how do you want to feel each day, how do you want to show up. And so reflecting back on the athletes, they've obviously been building up to this point, their pinnacle of their career. And similarly, when we want to feel our best all year round, have to acknowledge that it's not going to be an instantaneous impact, instantaneous result. And this can also happen when you're focusing on like this summer transformation, right? So you've been eating well for a week and you suddenly expect to look significantly different because you've done everything you've been asked to do for that first week. I've not lost any weight yet. Why not? I have been to the gym 3 times this week and I don't have a 6-pack yet. Because you've given it 1 week. These athletes who've been training for their whole life, pretty much, for this stage, we're seeing them at their best because of all the hard work they've put in and the effort and the highs and the lows and the rejections and the positives. And we have to kind of go through that as well. You know, life's not always going to be easy, ozy, and I'm saying, yeah, we want to feel good all the time, all year round, but you won't, because there'll be days, there'll be weeks, there'll be months, there'll be life stresses, there'll be bereavements, there'll be hormones, there'll be sadness, there'll be happiness, there'll be so much going on that we need to have that realistic expectation of. And even if you do a summer shred or transformation challenge, whatever it might be, and you get the results you want, what happens then after your holiday? Do you come back and settle back into the exact same routine you had before you did that 6 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it might be? Are you just going back into the same behaviours, the same habits that you had before, which means suddenly you go into autumn, winter, spring, shit, it's coming up for summer, you have to do another one? Or are you able to maintain what you've built, like those habits, those behaviours, things that you can long-term sustainably maintain, and suddenly that's giving you the kickstart for you then to have that nice consistent outlook on life all the time, rather than just focusing on it being, you know, summer is the only time you get to feel good. And so having that more realistic long-term outlook and seeing it as a full year, or not even just a full year, like years, life, then it can help how we see ourselves and how we approach health and fitness in general. And it means that the run up to summer doesn't have to be just a full-on stressful, self-negative dread because, oh God, I've left it so late again that I've only got 4 weeks till my holiday. You might not get what you want to achieve in that 4-week time. So you go on holiday, you feel a little bit uncomfortable in yourself, you feel annoyed that you've left it again to the last minute. You start hiding from photos, you see photos when you get home, you don't like what you see. And that negative mood then reflects not just on you, but other people. Like, how are you showing up on your holiday? You're hiding from the camera. Does that then impact how your family dynamic is? Are you arguing with your partner because you're in a grump because your clothes didn't fit the outfit you chose, you didn't like it, or you feel uncomfortable because it's too tight? All those sorts of things play into a much bigger picture. And the other thing to consider is that summer is when a lot of routines are broken. So actually, you're most consistent throughout the year because, you know, not all people go on very many holidays. Maybe summer is like the big holiday. Schools, yes, there's quite a lot of holidays in schools, but summer is when they've got a big block. Might be when you get more time off work. That might be when there's more going on, like social occasions, there's festivals, there's gala days. There's lots of stuff that happens, which is when you're going to be most challenged to maintain any kind of habits that you might have already built up. And so we put that pressure on ourselves in the summer, and then suddenly we're like, oh, I'm trying to be good, but it's summer and all these things, and I don't want to miss out. Whereas if we are able to build up that habit, those behaviours, the mindset throughout the rest of the year, summer is just like a small portion of that whole year. So if you think about things in the 80-20 setup, 80% is, you know, living in line with your values and your goals. You know, might be thinking in terms of like food, it might be eating food that's nourishing and healthy and keeps you, you know, showing up at the gym, or it keeps you on a fat loss journey if that's what you've got. And then 20% of the time is going to be maybe eating for enjoyment or social occasions, going out. You know, if it was 80% of that and 20% of that, then you might not get the goal that you want to, or you won't be in line with the values that you want to lead. And that can be the same with summer and the rest of the year. Like summer, I mean, in the UK, summer, yes, is in months, but actually the number of days you might be away for on your holiday, or the number of days where you might be having a barbecue or sitting in a beer garden, are probably quite low because of the weather that we have. So you could see as your summer as your 20% and the rest of the year as your 80%, rather than what quite often we do is put all that pressure on the summer being the be all end all, that 20%, trying to balance everything while still having a good time. And then the rest of the year is that 80% of not living in line with the values that you want and the outcome that you want to get. So, point being, if you have your basic habits embedded in well before summer season comes, if it's regular behaviour for you, then it's not going to be a big deal because you already do it. Maybe you need to shimmy things around, maybe things will get dropped, but you have those habits bedded in, so they're not going to suddenly be lost. You're not going to forget how to do things. But it means that when you've got those curveballs and social occasions and things, you don't shit the bed. You're able to maintain it. You're able to get back on the wagon, if you want to call it that. You're able to get back into those habits and behaviours soon after, rather than kind of getting lost in the, well, I've done it now, so I'm just going to be in the spiral. And then it's autumn. Oh, well, it's Christmas now, so what's the point? And then, you know, that's your life, just going around the seasons and constantly on a diet, not on a diet. So much like the all or nothing mindset, which we want to get out of and we want to choose something over nothing mindset, this is the same for summer. So summer doesn't have to be summer or nothing. And if you're ready to start prioritizing your health and fitness all year round, then you can apply to work with me one-to-one online. Apply via the show notes. That's it for this week's podcast. I'll be back again soon. Okay, bye.